Good morning, everybody. Eric Lohman, Vice President of the Southern California PGA, here for today's Catalyst. I'm the relief pitcher for Mr. John Kulo. John, the aforementioned expert and our regular host for Catalyst, is on vacation. So he asked that I come in for him today and assist, which I wholeheartedly am lucky to do and willing to do. We are very fortunate today to have some dear friends of mine on this presentation, so we're very excited. The Catalyst webinar series is a weekly educational platform provided by the section to create success, promote change for you and your club. During today's session, we are pleased to feature one of the SCPGA's best and longest tenured partners, Bud Garmany and Lee Derrick of Garmany Golf and Travel. We also have their good friend Alec with us as well. A couple of housekeeping comments before we begin. This session or this season, we will be recorded and archived on the SCPGA YouTube channel. I messed that one up pretty good. If you have any questions during this presentation, please type those into the Q&A box located at the bottom of the channel, and we will address those during the end of the meeting. Those that attend this live broadcast will earn 1 MSR credit automatically, and those watching the YouTube archive can take the quiz available on scpga.com to earn your credit. With that, we welcome Bud and Lee to the webinar. A little background on Garmany Golf and Travel before we begin. Garmany Golf specializes in creating unforgettable golf and travel experiences spanning the entire globe from Europe to the United States to New Zealand and South Africa. Their team of knowledgeable concierges will arrange every last detail for you so you can concentrate on one thing and one thing only, creating lifelong memories. Today, they will walk us through the current state of international travel and address any question you may have about taking your members on that bucket list experience. Before we personally welcome Bud and Lee, we have this short video to showcase their brand.
One year ago, the world suffered a terrible gut punch. The COVID virus intruded upon us, and it changed the way we live. We lost lives, we lost jobs, and our opportunities to have great experiences were ripped from us. But here's what we haven't lost: our thirst for those great experiences. As a species, we're hardwired for experiences and journeys that expand our horizons and touch our souls and leave us forever changed. We seek and thrive when we experience community, connection, the joy of discovery. And travel? Well, travel gives us all of these. And we will once again resume our journeys. Because if there's anything this last year has taught us, it's that life is short and it ain't a dress rehearsal. The expression of, well, maybe someday, has been turned into the battle cry of, if not now, when? Now is the new maybe someday. When you're ready, you can count on this. Your next bucket list experience awaits your arrival.
You know what? That gives you goosebumps. And I don't know if it's because it's a great video, the pictures, or it's because Bud Garmany is the football coach that I never had, and I'm willing to run through a wall for you. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bud Garmany, my good friend, and Lee Derrick, who's actually joining us from Yorkshire, England. And it's probably a good shout out. I tell you that I'm a big Man United fan right about now.
Oh,
but, perfect. Welcome, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Elo, thanks for that introduction. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody at the SCPGA, Tom Addis, Nikki Gatch, Dave Kuhn, Bryce Seaver. I don't want to start naming names so I'll forget somebody, but I don't know if there's a bigger fan of the SCPGA than Garmany Golf. It's just been an honor and a pleasure the last 3 or 4 years to be a partner. A lot of members we've had an opportunity to meet at some of the events, and I can't tell you how much we've missed that. We're really looking forward to getting back to being at these events and sitting on that tee and having some bucket list experience giveaways and pouring some Irish whiskey and some single malts like we're prone to do now and then, ELO, as you well know. And we're really looking forward to that. We've missed you guys, and we can't wait to see you all again in person. First thing I want to say is that we're going to try to keep this at a very high level in terms of the quick presentation that we want to do here. Nobody's ever accused Lee and I of using too few words, but we're going to try today to be concise, and we're going to keep it high level. And hopefully there'll be some questions at the end where we can kind of answer some of the questions that you might have about travel and the state of travel and what's going on in the post-COVID world. And we're going to try to address some of that in the next few minutes. The first thing, if you look at this slide, you'll see a term there. It says experiential travel. Well, some of you might be saying, well, what the hell is experiential travel? It's kind of become a buzzword over the last couple of years, but to be very candid with you, experience is part of our culture. You know, we started in 2009, which we used to say prior to 2020 was the worst year in the history of the world to start a luxury golf travel business, but you can't say that anymore because now 2020 is the leader in that category. But when we started out in 2009, we knew that we wanted to be different. And it starts with our culture. We don't do trips and tours, we create experiences. We don't have clients and customers, we have guests. We don't have employees, we have teammates. And, you know, when we started back in 2009, people made fun of us a little bit for that and, you know, said, well, that's just vernacular and that's just words. Maybe, but we said that it begins with the way you think and then it's the way you speak and that becomes your culture. That's who you are. The passion that we bring to the experiences that we create for our guests, that's what sets us apart. Now and then somebody will say to me, if they are not familiar with Garmany Golf, they'll say, well, are you like Perry Golf or Haversham Bay or some of these other companies that exist in the world of what they call golf tour operators? And, you know, we say somewhat jokingly and somewhat serious, well, we're just like those guys, but 100 times better. What makes us different? What makes us different is our passion, our culture for doing what we do and creating unforgettable experiences for our guests. Alec, next slide, please. So in a nutshell, what do? We create bucket list experience. We don't do cookie cutter tours. These are all custom experiences that we create that are catered to whether it's the PGA professional, a corporation, a board of directors, or a private group. Every experience is created to ensure that it delivers and exceeds the expectations that that group or that professional or that club, that member, that guest has. And as I said, we're passionate about that world-class guest service. That's what sets us apart. Next slide, Alec. You know, I got to tell you, I hesitated having this slide in there. When the team created this, I said, that thing scares the hell out of me. Apparently, especially that guy sitting in the plane right there. It looks like an alien invader. But the reality is, travel was probably the most impacted industry in the entire world by the COVID effect. Tourism was down over 75%, and that may be conservative. Industries like cruise shut down, barred from entry, barred from travel, all the different quarantine. You're never going to see a picture of the Taj Mahal with 3 people in the entire picture. And it really was a difficult time for us the first 3 or 4 months. When we looked at it, there was a lot of uncertainty. Were we going to survive? Were we going to be able to get through this? And the answer, as we now know, is an emphatic yes. Next slide, Alec. The state of travel, I mean, here's what's happened over the past year. And I'm not telling you guys anything that you don't know, but if you look at the top 1%, if we call it that, and these are the people who travel with the bucket list experiences, there are 2 things that have happened. One, there's been a lot of wealth generated. People have done very well in the markets and the economy in general, accepting those industries that have been particularly impacted by COVID. What does that cause? An incredible amount of pent-up demand. In the 11 years we've been in this business, I've never seen the kind of pent-up demand for experiences, for travel. And I don't need to tell anybody on this call this, the increase in golf participation is off the charts. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the National Golf Foundation study that most number of rounds since 1997 in 2020. What's remarkable about that is that it was minus 20 million rounds in April and May, and yet still it was the most impactful year in golf since 97, Tiger Mania. And we just, I can't even, and we'll hit on this a little bit when we talk about the pent up demand and the difficulty in booking and the runways that are required. And we're going to talk about what's necessary and when you should start inquiring. Lee's going to talk about some of the destinations. Lee, I'll let you take it.
Sure. Thanks, Bud. And yeah, and just kind of touching on, that pent-up demand that you say. I mean, we're experiencing that right now in terms of, people looking for 2022 and have been for a while now, and even through to 2023. And, I've had people inquiring. I had a chap the other day, he's 80-year-old, and he's looking to go and play in France. And I was saying, well, there's nothing confirmed, or it's still a little bit nebulous over in France at the moment. And he's like, I just want to book it. I want to travel this year, So and so yeah, just looking at some of the destinations. I mean, at the moment, the world seems an attractive place to travel to. Certainly for us here in the UK, for a long time, we've not really kind of traveled over and above kind of 5 kilometers from the house. So, going anywhere is a treat. But certainly the destinations that we work with and sent lots of guests to over the years are going to be there. They're going to be right there on the top of people's list to travel to. So looking at UK and Ireland, and this is a marvelous picture of Royal County Down with the Mourne Mountains in the background. They were actually on fire over the weekend. Something that's we normally associate with California rather than the Northern Ireland. But the UK and Ireland is going to be opening up in a couple of weeks' time, May the 17th, and so we'll be allowing for foreign travel then, and from June onwards there'll be zero restrictions. So that's the plan anyway. And so, why is the UK and Ireland popular? Links golf has to be right at the top there. I mentioned there the old courses of St Andrews, Muirfield, Royal County Down. These are all places that we know, but certainly within the British Isles, there are hundreds of links courses, some that you know, some that you won't know, which will feature in our itineraries that we build for guests. And certainly looking at the best times to travel, May through September, you get great daylight during these months. And you obviously going to get, it's the British Isles, so you're going to get maybe all 4 seasons in a round. But certainly when it comes to May and June, if you're up in the Highlands of Scotland, you could easily tee off at 7 p.m. and still get 18 holes. Next slide, please, Alan. Europe. I mean, pre-pandemic, we're seeing an increase in interest in Europe. They've been going through the mill somewhat with their vaccination program, but it's now starting to gather pace, and they're confident that they'll be reopening in the summer. No definite dates, but it looks like they'll be welcoming travelers through the summer also. What makes Europe popular? I mean, it's the old world. You've got culture. I mean, culture kisses you on both cheeks and pretty much on every road that you walk down, in the likes of Italy and France. The cuisine, the wine, and the golf. Fabulous golf destinations, Spain, Portugal, Italy, and France have become really popular, in the couple of years leading up to the pandemic. And we have a kind of a wider, longer season, April to October, primarily because of the southern Mediterranean countries and the better climate. Next slide, please, Anna.
I want to talk about Australia and New Zealand, but before I talk about that destination, those destinations, which have become 2 of my favorite new destinations anywhere, anywhere on the globe, I want to go back to, Lee was talking about the UK and Ireland and the pent up demand. I want to give an example of that. So we're working with, my good friend, Craig Plumley, many of you guys know, down at El Niguel in Orange County. And, Craig travels a lot. He's looking to take 11 of his members to Northern Ireland next year, June of 22. We've been working for about 4 weeks now having difficulty getting the bookings in place because they're already full for June of 2022. I want to say full, almost at capacity. And so that really speaks. I've never experienced where we've been 14 months out in trying to book an experience for a group of 12 and having this kind of difficulty. So that pent up demand is real. Australia and New Zealand, you know, people always ask me, and I get asked this question a lot, what's your favorite destination? And I say, you know what, it's impossible for me to answer that because there's just so many places I love to go, whether it be Northern Ireland, St. Andrews, you know, south of Spain, on and on and on, right? But it's real easy to say what my two new favorite destinations are, and that's Australia and New Zealand. I don't think I've ever experienced a place where I went and I was there. I spent 3 weeks there in 2017. And I remember thinking specifically, if I never left here after this, I would be good. It was amazing. The Melbourne Sandbelt, the golf on the Melbourne Sandbelt, you're talking about Royal Melbourne, Victoria, Kingston Heath, and I could go on and on and on with those golf courses. Pound for pound has got to be the best golf region in the entire world. The culture in Australia is amazing. The culinary scene, the wine scene. Sydney, one of the great cities in the world. The best golf course, I just talked about the Melbourne Sandbelt, but actually I think the best golf course is in Sydney called New South Wales, Alistair McKenzie design. And you start talking about New Zealand, my favorite experience in the world for couples. It's just a totally amazing scene from the standpoint of golf, culinary, architectural, historical, wine, everything. Jack's Point, which is that picture that you're looking at there, that's on the South Island down in Queenstown. I've never experienced anything like the grandeur and just the specter of this place, New Zealand. You got to remember their seasons are the complete opposite of what ours are. So summer runs between December and February, and fall comes in between March and May. We're looking at some significant experiences in 2022. I was talking earlier with Lee, and we said how frustrated we were that we haven't gotten more people to Australia and New Zealand. One of the things that people think about is, well, it's so far away. It's actually easier to get to Auckland or Sydney than it is to get to Edinburgh in Scotland, because there's no there's no direct flights from the West Coast into Edinburgh. You can actually get on a plane on a Tuesday night direct and wake up the next morning in Auckland. It's like a 9 or 10 hour flight. Great destination. Can't wait to get more people there. Next slide, Alec.
Yeah, and talking of, you know, fabulous experiences and places where we'd like to take a lot more people to, and you know, Bud waxes lyrical over Australia, New Zealand, and this for me, South Africa is right up there in terms of destinations which firmly leave an impression, you know, on your mind. And South Africa at the moment is open, really kind of low COVID rates. And the attraction of South Africa, I mean, great wine regions, you know, some super golf. The cuisine is incredible. The hospitality is really second to none. I mean, you know, almost anybody you come across has got a big smile on their face and is looking to welcome you, you know, into their hotel, to their golf course, into their restaurant. But the aspect of a South Africa experience that really leaves that imprint on your mind is the game drives. And we work with Sabi Sabi up in the Kruger National Park, and you know, a couple of game drives a day, probably around 5 a.m. in the morning and about 5 p.m. In the evening. And I mean, it's really kind of hard to explain once you're out there. You know, in these vehicles, you've got your tracker and your driver. The tracker, they're looking at the smallest imprint in the soil and then leading you to a pack of lions, you know, a herd of elephants, giraffe, zebra. And you don't need iPhones, you don't need watches. I mean, it's really kind of spectacular. Although, I mean, and I've been fortunate enough to go on a number of game drives. One of the last times I was in Sabi Sabi, I just went out. It was a bit of a site inspection. And just me, the driver, and the tracker, and our vehicle got stuck in a little creek, and it kind of went on its side. So 2 wheels are in the creek with 2 in the air, and I'm in the back seat within the side that's up in the air. And the tracker and the driver get out to get a log or a branch to try and free the wheel. And as they did, a couple of 4-ton rhinos come from behind the bush. start kind of sniffing around. Rhinos have got really bad eyesight, but they've got incredible smell, and they may have been kind of smelling the vapors coming off my breath after a few beers the night before, but they certainly took an interest in the vehicle, and I can tell you the adrenaline was rushing. My heartbeat was pumping through the chest, but they had no interest and they wandered off, as well as being kind of scared. But I was exhilarated, and although you won't be kind of getting situations like that, the exhilaration that you see from seeing these wild animals just in their home is fantastic. The best times to go for golfing's October through Easter, so April time, and for the game drives, Easter through September. But the October Easter kind of time frame is also very good. As I say, 5 a.m., 5 p.m. It's just too hot for animals to come out during the day, but it's great for playing a bit of golf in the afternoon, taking those drives early morning or in and around sundown. Next slide, please, Ali.
Actually, before we leave that slide, I want to thank John Matheny. Somebody pointed out, John pointed out, there's a typo. Leopard Creek is in fact in South Africa, not New Zealand. So we apologize for the confusion there, guys.
So traveling in a post-pandemic world, I mean, what's that going to mean? I mean, we kind of sat down and thought long and hard about this, and I think we've brought it down to two things. It's what we know and what we don't know. Looking at traveling this year, what we do know is that there are going to be restrictions and requirements. What we don't know is what exactly they are going to be at the moment. We've got a feeling that there'll be some kind of entry requirements, but many governments have still got to, have got to clarify and confirm that. In terms of the UK, those will be confirmed in the next few days. What we do know is there are traffic light systems. So that's, green, amber, red. Each country is going to be assigned a color. And the word or the leak from government at the moment is that the US will be a green lit country, which means coming in to the UK will be free of quarantine. The point there about testing, I think testing is going to be just part of the new normal, if you like, in air quotes. We're going to be testing for some time. And part of the system of coming into the UK is that, probably on around day 2 or day 3, you're going to have to take a PCR test on, submit a PCR test after arrival. 2022, what we do know is there's going to be huge demand. We're already experiencing that right now, and as the vaccination programs roll out throughout the world, more countries open up, people are going to want to travel. As Bud says at the beginning, people are just chomping at the bit ready. As you Bud also mentioned, scarce availability, not just because of that huge demand, but we're experiencing, from now up until really kind of July of this year, we've rescheduled the majority of our experiences. Obviously, we're not the only ones. So everyone who was due to travel this year rebooked in the first half of this year, rebooked for next year, as well as those people who booked last year for next year. That just means there's going to be scarce availability and returning to normality. We hope and we're optimistic that will be the case. And, we look forward to that, to really that being the case next year. Next slide, please, Alan. So what are we seeing? We've mentioned we're seeing longer lead times, people already looking for next year and taking inquiries for 2023. Couples travel. We were kind of experiencing that a little bit in 2019, more of that. And what did you say to me earlier on, Bud, about, one of the things about couples travel there? You saying,
well, yeah, I mean, look, there's always going to be the guys groups that are going to create the experiences. But I think after a year of being cooped up as a family, it might be a little tougher to get a hall pass. We might be looking at more couples travel and more family travel.
Absolutely. And I think, we've put multi-generational travel, maybe not quite, on the golfing experiences with the little kids, but what we are seeing is, father and son, parents and children for sure. And our first experience, for this year, it's going to be traveling at the beginning of August, is his three brothers and their father. So we're looking to see more of that. The private options, there's a lot of talk about hygiene and crowds and everything else, but certainly pre-pandemic we were seeing more use of villas and yacht charters in the south of France and in Spain. And this year we're fielding inquiries and looking at planning experiences using private jets as well. Next slide, Ali.
Guys, in summary, and we want to take as many questions as you guys have. We would welcome that and really appreciate that. But in summary, it's real easy. You see the first point there. I'm a huge fan of the New England Patriots mantra. I'm a fan of the Patriots, but I love their mantra. And Belichick talks about it a lot. Do your job. We know what our job is. In this case, our job is to make the PGA professional look like a superstar to your members. We start out with that. When we create experiences for PGA professionals, we start out with that being the number one task, is to make the PGA professional look like a superstar to your members. Because if we start with that, what filters down and out of that is that we're going to be detail oriented. We're going to make sure that the members know that the professional created this experience. He chose the right people, Garmany Golf, to travel with. And the biggest compliment that we can get is when you're on that plane ride home and they look at you and they say, "Pro, where are we going next year?" Right? And we always say it's a little bit harder for us to earn the business of a group, a club, a PGA professional the first time. I don't know if we're the most expensive golf tour operator on the planet, but if we're not, it's a very short list and we're right at the top. So it might be a little bit tougher for us to earn someone's business that first time, but here's what we know. We get your business that first time, we're going to keep it year after year after year. And we've got scores of PGA professionals that can testify to that. Last point, inquire now and book early. When we first started talking about this, we thought people are going to think we're giving them a sales pitch, but man, I can't say anything more than the example I gave with, Craig and his group down at El Niguel, 14 months out and having trouble finding, the particular properties that we wanted and the golf courses. And as Lee mentioned, there's several reasons for that, but certainly I would say the most significant one of that is that pent up demand that we're having. Everybody's ready. We've taken for granted some things that were so just easy for us to do. Get onto planes, go to great destinations, have a great meal, sit together, right? These things have been taken from us. And as we get them back, I think we're going to have a deeper sense of gratitude and a deeper desire to do it, more often and do it better. So with that said, we'd love to take whatever questions, and Elo, I'll let you spearhead that.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. What a great presentation and a lot of information that you threw at us there at over a few minutes. I guess my first question would be for Lee. Lee, what exactly is a kilometer?
It's
that sounds like a length of something, but I'm not even sure.
A kilometer.
But all kidding aside, the other thing with that picture of the giraffe in South Africa, yeah, with the wind blowing off my right, was I supposed to hook it up over the giraffe? And do you get like a free relief in South Africa from giraffes?
That was exactly my question as I saw that giraffe. I was wondering if you get a free relief or a redo.
See, I thought about, do I hold it up against the wind and go to the left of the giraffe? Do I go through its legs? Do I hook it around the giraffe? I mean, these are the things that I think about when I look at a picture like that.
Yeah.
Only a man of your skill set would be thinking those type of
limited. If you could state, if you put skill set, put limited next to it. My first question, I guess, is just my honest question is, this to me as a layman looks a little daunting, right? And I think it's probably a little daunting to some folks who haven't, unlike Craig Plumley, who we know have done several trips, but somebody that maybe hasn't gone overseas with a group of people. How does the process work, Bud? Like if you pick up the phone, you reach out to a Bud Garmany, you reach out to your office, then tell me what happens next.
So one of the things, that's a great question, Elo, particularly for a club or a PGA professional that doesn't have a legacy and a history of travel. One of the things that we've done with a lot of different clubs, in fact, I play one of the clubs I'm a member at is Satakoy, and they want to start this, culture of travel because, look, we didn't talk about this during the presentation, but certainly one of the benefits of, a club that travels together is that a PGA professional, I think it was Scott Hine told me once, Tuna said that, I'll in a week of traveling with members, I'll spend more time with those individuals in a week than I might in 2 years at the club. So there's an opportunity to build a bond. It builds a culture. It's a point of pride for the members that the club puts together travel. But to your point, what do you do if you don't have that legacy, that experience? One of the things that we've done is we'll create a brief survey that you can send out to the membership with a letter coming from Eric to the members saying that, we want to start creating some travel experiences for the members here at Monarch, and we want to get your feedback. The important thing about getting the feedback is, well, first of all, just that you get feedback about where you think the members want to go, but now they're buying into it, right? So it's not just the pro creating somewhere where he wants to go. He's involving the membership in the decision. And that always helps as well. What you're going to find is that your Pied Pipers, your centers of influence, those members who really can move the needle in terms of recruiting other members, they're going to be the ones that are going to come to you with the ideas about where they want to go, the type of experiences. And some of the things that you find out in the survey too is it going to be all about the golf? Do we want, golf light with some cultural experiences, with some visits to whiskey distilleries? Do we want to have private dinners at castles? And, do we want to involve some historical tours? You really find out what they're looking for in creating that experience. So we always recommend starting out with a survey like that if you don't have that history of travel.
I mean, I haven't done enough of this, but that it does sound that maybe that's something that might separate you guys from your competitive set is your ability to inquire more about what these people may or may not want to do, and then trying to create those experiences as compared to just like when I book travel through a travel agent, they book room, rental car, airfare, maybe golf, and boom, you're done. But then it's up to you to get from point A to point B. It's up to you to create your own experiences. And it sounds like you help the people sort of jumpstart those experiences. Do you have any examples of some of the, or tell a story or two of some of those experiences that you've been able to pull off and why they were so memorable, and maybe something that somebody could take back to their club and suggest they do?
Yeah, one of the things the reason we call it an experience is that I always say, look, anybody can book tee times in hotel rooms, right? But the ability to incorporate an entire experience, which includes the culinary aspect of it, the historical, the tours, a lot of the things that we'll do really involve interacting with the people there at the destination. So you bring a sense of that culture with you. We'll arrange member events against the host members. We've got a group from the East Coast that it was a course that was designed by Donald Ross. So they're going up to Royal Dornoch in the Scottish Highlands, where Donald Ross grew up, where he learned his trade from old Tom Morris. And we've got a match against the members from this club against the members of Royal Dornoch. And then we're going to come together and have a dinner at the end. Those are the things that are unforgettable experiences that really leave you with more than just, I played a round of golf and this is what I shot and I stayed at this hotel and it was nice. To have those kind of experiences, that's what makes it a lifetime memory.
And I think just adding to that, but you could probably count on one hand where we book people where we haven't actually been to as well. So, we go to visit, the golf courses, the hotels, the restaurants, and we experience them, for ourselves. And, for me, it's easy to get around the UK and into Europe. And, the first time we took somebody down to South Africa, I was down on a plane, and although I'd been before, there were a couple of new venues and restaurants that we had to check out. So, and we look to build that relationship. We look to create an impression so that when our guests do arrive there and they identify themselves as part of the Garmany group, then people do remember, whether it's Bud, myself, or any other teammates who they know.
I want to speak to that really quickly, and then I know we have a question from Ed Holmes. I want to address that, but just quickly on Lee's point, the important aspects, the important reasons that we do the site visits, as much as anything, when we do a site visit, we're deciding if we're going to use a particular property, a golf course, a ground transportation provider, a whiskey distillery, a restaurant. One of the things that we do is we sit down with the powers that be at those particular properties and partners, and we tell them who we are and what we're all about. And one of the things that we say And we say it with a smile, we're half joking, but we're really serious. And that is, I need a favor from you. I need you to treat a Garmany golf guest better than you treat any other guest. And then they sort of laugh. And we've planted that seed, but how do we accomplish that? We accomplish that with constant communication with our partners. So if Eric Lohman and his group are going to go to Ireland, we give them all information that we can about Eric Lohman and his 11 members, and we're constantly communicating. We're calling them the day before. We're working with the caddy master to make sure we get the best caddies. We're talking to the maitre d's at the restaurant. We want to know where they're going to be sitting. If we've got food allergies, if we've got dietary requirements, these are things that we want to know. These are things that are really important. And they sound small, but that's what differentiates the experience. So that's what's important in us, building the relationship, not just with our guests, but building those close relationships with our business partners that we're going to be putting in the hands, because it's collaborative experience. Garmany Golf can do our job, but if the hotel, the golf course, the ground transportation provider, the restaurant, the whiskey distillery, whatever it may be, if they don't act in concert with us, the experience isn't going to exceed your expectations, and that's the goal. Ed Holmes has a question. Does Garmany organize trips for a husband and wife couple as well as groups? Ed, it's okay for you to use trips. We don't use trips. We say experiences, but you can use whatever you want. But yes, the answer is yes. The smallest group we've ever had is 1. The largest group we've ever had is 100 plus. So there's no group too small. We love to create experiences. That's the bottom line.
You, in the background of this picture, we see St. Andrews, obviously the home of golf. And I know, Bud, you've been helping us out with a trip that we're trying to plan for next year. And you know, it's been an eye-opener to me just to learn a little bit more about the intricacies of these trips. And maybe you can expand a little bit about maybe the British Open effect or the St. Andrews effect in regards to, cost and availability, and obviously the British Open being in St. Andrews in 2022.
Yeah, listen, St. Andrews and the accessibility and how you get on and how you play it. I mean, that's a dissertation in itself. We could do a 1-hour session just on that. But there's a variety of methods. I mean, in one sense, it's a very democratic approach. Anybody can play the old course at St. Andrews. I think you have a handicap requirement of 36, and I don't know if they actually enforce that or not. But it's very democratic in that sense. But the accessibility can be difficult in terms of having a guaranteed tee time. There's a daily lottery. There's a lottery that you file in advance. You got like a 1 in 100 chance of getting that. And when I say in advance, it's like a year in advance. But any year that the Open Championship is being conducted at St. Andrews, and they try to do it every 5 or 6 years, I believe, it's the most used venue for the Open Championship. As you said, Eric, it's the home of golf. Anytime there's an Open Championship in that year, it makes it incredibly difficult. And as Lee pointed out earlier, the Open Championship in 22 is at St. Andrews. They block off the tee sheet for like a month, 6 weeks in advance. A month before that, you're hitting off mats. You can't, hit out of the actual fairway. So it becomes a little bit of a difficult deal. The second most difficult time to book St. Andrews is in the year following the Open Championship being held at St. Andrews, because everybody's seen it on the telly, and they want to tick that bucket list box. But having said that, with enough planning, you can absolutely make it happen. And if you're willing to go over and not have a guaranteed tee time, but go through the daily lottery system, you certainly have a chance with that as well. But anybody that's interested in St. Andrews, we'd love to talk to you about it. But just in terms of the levels of complexity about it, probably best to do that on an individual basis.
What I was more interested in, and after talking to you and some other folks, it's a little funny in that, like the first inclination for people is to go to Scotland, is to go visit St. Andrews. Yet when we spoke, and obviously you just showed some great locations outside of even the UK with South Africa and France and Spain and what have you, I got the impression that although the golf in Scotland and in St. Andrews would be amazing, it might not be the most economical. It might not even be the best that you could plan for. Maybe without speaking poorly, because you're not, of St. Andrews and some of the golf courses around it, maybe just talk about, for those on the call who really don't know, like what's Bud Garmany's opinion, what's Lee Derrick's opinion, where it would be if you had one more trip to take with your core group of best friends or people you'd want to go with, Where are you going? Where are you playing? What are you where are you staying? What are you drinking? What are you eating?
So let me just say this about St. Andrews, Elo, and you know, let Lee weigh in because he's been going there a lot longer than I have. But and we're both members of the St. Andrews New Club, which is one of the three main clubs there. And Garmany Golf has a membership as well, which that's one of the cool things about when our guests go to St. Andrews, we make you temporary members of the St. Andrews New Club for a week. It's the newest club of the big three in St. Andrews. Newest in the sense that it was formed in 1895. Old Tom Morris was a founding member, Arnold Palmer, Tom Watson, et cetera, et cetera. But in any case, I'll say this about St. Andrews. There's no question, it's the Mecca. It's a spiritual journey. You got to stand on that first tee. Your knees are shaking. You got tears in your eyes. It's an emotional experience because it is the home of golf. Having said that, it's certainly not my favorite golf course in Scotland. And those are subjective things. It's like saying what's your favorite meal, your favorite bottle of wine, whatever it may be. But for me, it's the Scottish Highlands. Royal Dornoch is my favorite golf course in the entire world. If I had to play one more round of golf, or if I had to play one golf course for the rest of my life, it would be Royal Dornoch. There's just something so special about the Scottish Highlands. But I could also talk about the West Coast when you're talking about Turnberry, Western Gales, Prestwick, and the entire place of Scotland is a magical journey because it is the home of golf. It runs through the fiber of their being there. Even if a Scotsman doesn't play golf, he knows damn well how important golf is to the history of the Scots. So, Lee, talk about kind of your favorite places in Scotland.
I mean, you mentioned, great regions, great golf courses there. I'm talking to you from south of the border. I'm in England, and England is arguably the most underrated golfing destination in the world. We've got nearly 2,000 golf courses, and the northwest of England. Yeah, Bird will say the sandbelt of Melbourne is as good in the world. The northwest of England is as good as you're gonna get. I mean, you've got the three Royals of Royal Liverpool, Royal Lytham, and Royal Birkdale. Within 45, 50 minutes of each other. Certainly where Royal Birkdale, you've got other golf courses, Hillside, Southport and Ainsdale, one of the early Ryder Cup golf courses. It's a phenomenal stretch of links golf. And when we're looking at value for money, it also represents, extremely good value. And, another within England, I would say, kind of the Surrey commuter belt. So you're looking at about 50 minutes outside of London, and Heathland golf courses. So Heathland golf courses are the fairways are like a link style, so they're quite sandy and have that run on them. But you get the kind of the fabulous trees, flowers, gorse all around. So in summer or late spring, it's just a picture of just a color. But these golf courses, the Sunningdales, the Walton Heaths, the St George's Hill, are just absolutely as good as you're going to get. And with the proximity to London, it makes for a fabulous experience. And when at Sunningdale, that's certainly one of my favorites there. The two golf courses there, you can't really, the old and the new, you can't really separate them in their quality, but just the feeling of driving into Sunningdale, and hitting around there is phenomenal.
In hearing Lee talk about England, I got to say, this is the first time this question ever popped into my mind. I've never gotten this question in 11 years of being in this business. No one's ever said, what's the most underrated golf region in the world? No one's ever asked that. And as Lee was talking about England, it occurred to me that that's exactly what that region is. There's 10 courses that host the British Open Championship. For a gazillion years, it was only 9. And then in 2019, Royal Portrush in Northern Ireland hosted. So now there are 10. They still don't know if Royal Portrush is going to be in the consistent rotation or not. But, 4 of the British Open Championship courses are actually in England. And so, I mean, it's amazing how good the golf is. And by the way, there's another 25 courses that are amazing that I promise you've never heard of. I've taken people to courses like that, whether it be in Ireland or England, and they'll walk off a course, Dukes in the southwest of Ireland. Nobody's ever heard of Dukes. It's Dooks. I've had people come off Dukes and go, that's the biggest surprise and joyful experience I've ever had, because I came here not having any idea what I was going to experience. And that was just a magical day on the Dingle Peninsula. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many regions and, you know, so many courses, so little time. Got a question from Jim Smith, and I'll let you take this, Lee. Says, what are some planning times to get passports, required shots, or inoculations and other travel requirements?
So planning times, you know, to get passports, I think, you know, that just comes down to, you know, each individual, you know, country or maybe state where you are. And you need at least 6 months validity on your passport when you're entering into the UK. And I think most countries do require 6 months on there. One of the requirements when it comes to the vaccinations is, and possibly one of the reasons why there's nothing concrete come out, there's been talks of, you know, a vaccine passport, you know, being required. Certainly here, you know, they've been very careful not to create a two-tier system, if you like, because as many people are getting vaccinated, not everybody is doing, and they, you know, it's a your right to choose whether you want to get vaccinated, and it might be on health grounds, it might be on, you know, religious grounds that you don't want to get vaccinated. So, you know, they've been very careful in, you know, in mandating, if you like, for vaccine passports. What you will no doubt be required to do is, you know, have a test within 72 hours of flying, and if you have got your vaccinations, just proof of that. The time planning for other travel requirements. I think, you know, like we've said earlier on, with everything that we're trying to do, or you're trying to do in planning now, is giving yourself as much time as possible. You know, not leaving it to the last minute, and, you know, even the last kind of 6 or 7 months. If you are looking at traveling next year, start to make those inquiries now, certainly for passports if you see that running out, and you know, and anything else.
Two things I just want to clarify really quickly, Lee.
Yeah.
What Lee referenced on the 6 months on the passport, it doesn't take 6 months to get a passport.
No.
You can get a passport
Validity on the passport
if you expedite it. But a lot of countries do have a stipulation that if your passport expires in less than 6 months from the time that you're leaving, departing their country, returning home, you actually can't return home. So I've never seen that enforced, but I wouldn't push that rule. I would make sure that your passport is more than 6 months out. The second thing, to Jim's question about the planning times of passports, shots, inoculations, other travel requirements. Certainly if you're traveling in 2022, there's nothing that you can't get done within that window that would need to be done in order to travel.
Great. What I had a quick question, or actually came from the group as well. What of all the group traveling that you have on the books, do you have any groups traveling, say, in the next few months, or when will your next first group come back online?
The next first group coming back online is the 1st of August. And that's traveling into Ireland. And we'll get an update from the Irish government at 10 o'clock PST today on how their roadmap out of restrictions, what it's going to look like. But yeah, we've got the 1st of August, and then we've got groups August, September, and into October.
And just a little bit more on that, Elo, we had 40 something groups that we had to reschedule from, I think 21 to, you know, or 20 to 21. And one of the things that we did was, going back about 3 or 4 months ago, we kind of had to put some stakes in the sand. And so, you know, I mean, like a lot of things with COVID, you're reading tea leaves and trying to make forecasts when you don't really know what is happening here. But we decided a few months back that we were going to recommend to all groups scheduled to travel in 2021, if you were scheduled to travel before August 1st, we were going to recommend deferring, whether it be later in the year or to 2022. After August 1st, we felt pretty comfortable that you'd be able to travel and have the kind of experience that we would want you to have. So that was kind of a decision that we made. And it turned out to be a fortuitous decision, because those timelines have been pretty much spot on.
You know, I think I know you've mentioned it now a few times, and I don't know if it really resonates enough with people, like the pent up demand from 19, 20, 21 into 22, or even now into 23 is going to be exponentially greater than anything that probably European travel or international travel has ever seen. And, you know, as a person sitting on the outside, as a recommendation to my fellow peers, like, one, if you do have any interest or there's an inclination that your friends and members would be wanting to go, you need to start acting today. And secondly, by doing that and being proactive, if you are able to secure a wonderful trip like you all are speaking about, and you were able to pull it off successfully in 2022 at one of these bucket list experiences, it will probably be even that much better for everyone involved because of that demand. It'd be just like the people who get to go to Disneyland first, or the first people who sit down at Mastro's, or, and I don't know about you all, but you know, we all probably have either had or will have shortly a post-COVID moment. It's that moment you hug your grandfather. It's the moment you handshake your neighbor, or you kiss your friend that you haven't seen, or you know, you get to go to the restaurant, or you walk somewhere that you haven't been in 3 years that you go to every year. So I would just recommend that you take advantage of what is not only a unique opportunity to make something special even more special, but to be in front of it and not behind it. I had a quick question.
Spot on. Sorry, you're spot on. Just two things really quickly for us to close. It may have been a Freudian slip, but an apt one when you said 1921 versus 2021, because a lot of sociologists are talking about the fact that you're going to see a return to the roaring 20s. And that was after the Spanish flu and the pandemic in 1918. You saw a zest and a fervor for life that was unequaled in Western civilization, or any civilization really. And there was spending, there was experiences, there was that zest for it. I think that's exactly what we're going to see in 2022, the rest of 2021 and 2022. And then lastly, talking about that post-COVID moment, we had ours. Unfortunately, Lee couldn't travel over it. We just had our 5th annual Garmany Golf Pebble Beach Pro-Am, March 19th up at Pebble Beach. Wasn't as big as it would normally have been. I think we had 30 plus guests that were at Pebble Beach. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen the people at Pebble Beach. They were telling us that it was the largest golf group they'd had in over a year. The attitude that the people at Pebble Beach had to be able to get back to doing what they do, which is hosting people at that iconic property and providing those kind of experiences, the attitude and the enthusiasm of our guests to be able to have gotten on a plane, gone to Pebble Beach, travel. They had just announced 2 days before we got there that, you know, in dining was available again, to be able to sit down in a restaurant. So Elo, you're spot on. Those post-COVID moments are going to be, they're going to be magnificent, and hopefully they're going to be plentiful, and we're excited to be a part of that.
What one last question for me, and then I'll let both of you maybe make a closing statement if you'd like. What have you been that engaged over the years with the Ryder Cup, that when it goes to Europe? We know that this year, 21, it's in Kohler, Wisconsin. In 2023, I know it's not in France. Is it in Spain?
It's in Rome. It's in Italy.
It's in Rome, Italy. Sorry, thank you. It's in Rome, Italy. Is that an area that you guys focus on, or will you be focusing on Ryder Cup experiences?
We have sent some people to the Ryder Cup. You know, it's not been as big a part of our portfolio and experiences as we think it will be going forward. But for us, again, it's really about, you know, the overall experience, right? Because I mean, you've seen the sea of people watching the golf, and the people that we've sent to the Ryder Cup, you know, even though it's a 4-day package, they literally go for like maybe a day and a half. Certainly they want to catch some of the singles matches on Sunday, but the viewing experience isn't quite the same on site as it might be on TV. But certainly it's a bucket list box to have ticked it, but to be able to go to a Ryder Cup in Rome, that's an entirely different experience, because obviously you're going to add in some of the experiential aspects of, you know, going to a place like Rome and going to a place like Italy for sure.
Any closing thoughts, Bud or Lee? Anything you want to share with the group before we have to say goodbye?
Lee, I'll let you go first.
Well, just, I mean, touching on there, the Ryder Cup, I mean, it really is a special event, but I think Italy, you know, presents itself as a fabulous destination going forward, and you know, one which you know, I was I think was my last Garmany experience in 2019, taking a couple of clubs, to Italy and the up and down Tuscany and into Venice, and with pre and post experiences to the Amalfi Coast. I mean, all I've got to say really is that we're ready. We're getting excited about kind of work, getting into operations mode, and welcoming the first guests over to these shores, in the UK and over to Ireland in August, and certainly planning those experiences for our guests in 2022 also.
I would just echo Lee's sentiment that we're ready. And lastly, I mean, we're more than ready. We're incredibly excited to get back to doing what we do and being passionate about it. Lastly, I just want to thank, what a joy it was to have my good friend Elo be the moderator here. That was a nice surprise. Big shout out to John Kulo, Bryce Seaver, and everybody at the SCPGA. I don't say this lightly, man. It's an incredible honor to be a partner with the SCPGA. It really, I mean, I feel so lucky because we've partnered with a lot of different sections, but they're just, the SCPGA is the bar, man. I mean, just the team there, the people, obviously a lot of that comes from the leadership of Tom Addis, good friend. And it's just an honor to be a part of this section and to partner with you guys. And we look forward to creating a significantly more amount of experiences than we created in the past. We're very excited.
Well, thank you both, gentlemen, and thank you to Alec as well for helping us out. And I just can't, on behalf of the Southern California PGA, our 1,500 members and associates, I can't thank you enough for your support of our section, because your financial support and attending our special events has been very great over the last half decade, and I'm sure that support will continue, and our relationships will continue to foster. But most importantly, I think it's the friendship, and Bud, and obviously Lee, you're newer to us, and we can tell by just spending a few minutes with you on the phone that if we can start with Bud at LAX and we can end with you in Edinburgh, I think it would be a home run. But on behalf of my fellow executive committee, the board of directors, my members and associates, I just want to thank you both, and Garmany Golf, for what you do. And I would also recommend for anybody who's going to watch this, pick up the phone, support one of our sponsors, at least call these gentlemen and ask them the questions that you want to ask. They're honest with you, which I think they're honest and genuine, which I think in our industry, in our business, that's what we focus on as golf professionals, to be honest and genuine and provide great service. It's not just us talking out loud. It's those who are successful actually walk the walk and after talking the talk. And these two gentlemen, Garmany Golf, clearly do that. And for that, I'm thankful and appreciative. And I would just encourage all of those who are just slightly interested to give you guys a call. So on behalf of the Southern California PGA and John Kulo, I'm going to sign off and say good night. And y'all have a great time. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Cheers now.
Bye.